Greetings, everybody. We have returned once again to do the thing that we do and try our best to entertain you on this Sunday evening. Today, just being simple around the house and carrying my little Spyderco Toad.
Toad.
I love that thing.
It's good.
It's a weird one. It's a weird one.
Mm-hmm.
I guess I'll go next. I'm carrying an oddball little neck knife fixed blade from Wee Knives. Little mini kukri.
The Vaquita, I believe. Is what
Sure,
that
I wasn't going to hurt people's feelings by mispronouncing it.
Wow.
It means little whale.
We've mispronounced many things on this channel worse than that, I'm sure.
I know, and it's usually me that does it, so I was trying to save people.
Understood.
I guess I'll go next. As you notice, I got a bit of a new background. I got a new setup. It's a good time. I'm carrying classic 943. So, yeah, she's a fun one.
Yeah. And on the note of Dennis's new setup and everything, let us know how the volume is for everyone in the chat there.
Yes, please. We'll do some adjusting if I have to, but I'm hoping that it's coming in clear enough with this whole thing going on. Yeah.
Should be feasible. Speaking of feasible, with apologies to CRKT, D2 Pilar. Peeler? See, Paul, I can mispronounce things too. Reground to a 17-degree edge. Look at my scars, aren't they pretty? Because yeah, that's the way this knife should have come out of box. But you know what? I'm okay. I'm happy with it. I take back all the things I said about CRKT. They're doing good stuff with decent steel for once.
I was going to say, how's the D2?
Are we supposed to show off regrinds? I didn't know that was a thing. Like all of them are reground.
I don't usually, so I thought it was pertinent because it looks kind of weird with the high grind. But yeah. But that's not the knife. There's a different knife we're talking about.
It's true. It's true. There's a very different knife. It's way different than the Pilar. That's for sure.
Yeah. It sure is.
I was going to give a quick shout out to Justin, Mr. Fisk, and Darren for being in chat with us right now. What's going on, guys? What are y'all carrying tonight?
And as we're waiting for that answer, I will make sure that everyone hits the like and subscribe buttons and shares and does all that stuff, or else you will be cursed to stumble over your words as badly as I just did there.
Oh, Jesus, no.
Fantastic.
I do that enough as it is. I don't need help.
Like and subscribe.
Fine, I liked it. Okay? I did it. It's the first time.
Spare me, please.
I don't need that curse on me.
How's that for off-the-cuff cursing?
Off
the top of my head.
Nobody died, so I'm confused after Joe a couple weeks ago.
Well, that's because it's not Joe cursing you. That's why no one's dying.
I know. I appreciate that. I appreciate our viewership members. Yeah, that's words. Our viewers not being murdered.
I also appreciate the fact that they're just listing what they're carrying before you even get a chance to ask them. People are just spouting. It's just like, oh yeah, I've got this and this tonight.
He did ask.
Oh, okay. Never mind.
That's why I was doing the curse while we were waiting for their answers.
Ah, gotcha. Sorry, I'm preoccupied here. It's a whole new thing going on.
There's so many things going on.
So apparently Mr. Fisk is cosplaying as Joe tonight because he's carrying his AD-15, an H&K Access, a Benchmade Mini Striker, and a Benchmade 710.
Nice.
Because
nice.
Why not?
That's a decent amount of D2, isn't that? So the HK Axis.
Isn't he thinking about selling his Mini Striker?
I was gonna ask
this?
I thought Mr. Fisk was talking about selling his Mini Access.
Couldn't tell you. He can tell you though. He's here.
And if I got closer, he could have heard that. But the camera is behind the monitor right now, so this is as good as it's probably going to get this week at least, until we can do some tweaking. So, but I can try to turn it up a little bit more.
Yes, I was, he says.
No.
Excellent.
And Justin's carrying his Zero Tolerance 357, and Darren's carrying the knowledge that Professor Fuzzy Nuts is a deep undercover CSIS agent. So,
Shit, how'd you know that? Operation Abort. Operation Abort. Don't mind that.
I thought he was a
You
professor
see
and
the
a doctor.
cage rattling in the background.
Slowly shifting out of frame.
For smoke. Yeah, it's gone.
Smoke bomb.
Pocket sand.
Pocket glitter.
Don't come
You gotta be
anywhere.
careful with them.
Don't come
Glitter.
anywhere near my chinchilla with glitter. We will never get the glitter out of his fur.
It would be in there forever.
It would. Have you ever seen pictures of a shaved chinchilla? It's just the saddest thing.
Next question. No. I'm just kidding.
Next review.
Before that gets derailed. Yeah, for sure.
Dennis. So Fisk had sold his he sold the Oz Mini Presidio 2 in M4 and the carbon fiber large 21 instead.
I was wondering if Paul was going to ask about that M4 Presidio, the SHOT Show one that Fisk put up for sale. But anyway.
It's a nice one.
No, the Presidio is not one that speaks to me for some reason.
Which is strange because it's not a bad knife overall, but
No.
Anyway, on to the knife that we are talking
Next review.
yeah.
about.
We're on to our third one for the night.
Yeah. As you may have noticed, it's a double feature tonight, you lucky sons of guns.
Two no holds barred feature length motion pictures.
We're gonna start off we're gonna start off with the little guy first, just to make sure that we can we can escalate properly into the large flipper.
Did Joe send both to me? He did.
I did.
So who's going first?
Joe is.
I was going to say, I think Joe.
Because he's
Okay.
lazy on sending emails about scoring, so we'll make him go first. That's what's going to happen.
Seems fair.
Yeah.
No,
Yep,
it's not.
works for me.
It's not fair. But
What's
whatever.
going on tonight?
No,
Whatever.
3 to 4. It's fair.
Fine. Okay. So this, let me pull up a better picture for this guy first before we get too far into it. We're talking about this little guy.
Are we though?
Yeah, we are.
Tengu Flipper.
Or I thought we were starting with the tool.
Or Tool, yes, sorry.
Okay. Like,
Yeah.
oh shit.
Panic.
So the
Hey, that's a decent looking picture of that knife.
yeah.
Whoever took that picture.
Well, thank you.
Yeah.
Here, I've got another one for you that kind of shows off both aspects. So this is a funky little friction folder, not something that is terribly new to Benchmade. They did Paul said the name of it earlier. The LA, yeah. So it's very diminutive. It doesn't really show as well in this photo, but it's got a blade length of like less than an inch. It's a very, very small little thing. 20 CV G10 handles, and designed by Osher. Dropping the
Jared.
first name, Jared Osher. Okay, I wasn't sure if it was Jared.
I believe it's Jared.
Yeah. So overall, I gave this guy a 70. I give it a C. It had a lot going for it, but honestly, this was a knife that I was actually pretty split on in my scoring. I gave it a 6 for cost versus materials, not because I dislike the materials, but because you get so little of them. It's a very small piece of 20 CV. Yeah, there's a lot of intricate grind work going into the pry tool. There's a lot going on with the handle, for sure. But for what it is, for how small of a knife it is, rather, it's bit of a hard pill to swallow.
Do you think that there's more intricate grind work on the tool than there is on the blade grinds?
I think so. 100% there is. I'll pull up while we're chatting.
The tool is pretty much square cutout 3D machined minus the chisel, whereas the Tanto itself, you're working with bevels and angular grinds and double grinds, and I think it's an equal 50-50, but I mean,
I'm just going to interject. What's going on, Ahsoka?
Good evening.
Just a quick flash of the tool here. There is a lot going on with it for sure. Does it need to be that complicated in order to function? No, but I mean, it definitely.
There's a lot of bevels.
Yeah, this
Facets.
little. I'm gonna circle it
okay,
with my mouse
okay.
here. There's this little lip here that kind of makes it a little bit more useful as a bottle opener as well as a small pry bar. Like it's it was a very thoughtful design for sure. That's not necessarily my problem with it though. The other low point was actually the lockup and actuation. I actually really like friction folders, generally speaking, but this thing was just so small and weird to rotate. It was like a 3-step process to get this thing open, and because it was so small, I was routinely afraid of nearly dropping it, trying to catch it, and then cutting myself. Never happened, thankfully, because that would have been pretty upsetting, because it comes with a pretty decent edge. Little thick behind the edge for the size, but well sharpened. But cost, fit, and finish, that was the high point, objectively. This thing was actually finished quite nicely. Didn't really see anything out of whack, there was no weirdness, albeit it is a friction folder. There's not a whole lot to... it's not like you're worried about liners being cleaned up properly and being set properly, and etc. This thing actually did a little bit better personally than objectively. I gave it 8s for material choice, aesthetics, and pocket ergonomics. I think it's a really cute little knife. I actually really like the way this thing looks. It carries super well in the pocket, just completely vanishes within the little slip pouch that they give you for it. Ergonomic preference was the ultimate low point at a 5. It sucks trying to hold that thing, and trying to do any real work with it, I think, is going to be really miserable. Thinking about the blade primarily, the pry bar is fine, but it doesn't really give you a lot of handle to work with either, so it's I don't know. Maybe I'm spoiled by, Swiss Army stuff for that sort of application where I get a full handle with a mini pry bar. It could be there's some slight bias, but honestly, I think it's just a little bit too diminutive for that. So my enthusiasm ended at a 6. This is something that I think looks really super cool. I love the aesthetic of it. It's not something I could ever see myself purchasing, though. So, so safe.
I'm there.
Yeah.
That is fair.
Who's next? Paul.
I'll go.
Nice.
I'll go. Tengu Tool. So overall, I actually kind of a bit of a hater this week. I gave it a 64.
I think Mr. Fisk's criticism is catching up with you there. You take our scoring system.
Yeah, that's a D.
Oh,
D.
So
I'll get Paul's sheet up properly here in a second. It glitched out.
So right off the hop, cost versus materials, I gave it a 6. And one of the main reasons why I did that was I actually went back to the LA score to see what a comparable size knife, comparable build and stuff like that, what I gave that one. And I had given that a 5, so I couldn't in good conscience be like, well, it's got 20 CV, therefore it deserves a 7 or something like that, right? Cost versus fit and finish, I gave it an 8 because it is very nicely put together, even though it is expensive for being just a wee little thing. I think people don't take into account a lot of the times just how expensive machining can be, and that materials may not be the main cost in an item like that. For cutting ability, I gave it a 6 because of its diminutive size, and the knife edge that's there is a little thick behind the edge, and there's not a lot there to really get like a cut going. You very quickly run an edge and you're out of the cut, and you got to start again to continue that cut. On the ergonomic execution, I gave it a 5, specifically because it's a 2-finger grip, and even this thing, 2 fingers does
on the
not give you
objective,
enough.
you gave it a 5.
On the objective.
Oh, okay. Speaking for the crowd, you think the crowd gave it a 5?
If I don't like it in hand, how could anybody else like it in hand?
All right. I'll get to my point when I do my score, but anyway, yeah.
Yeah, of course. Lock it up in actuation, I gave a 7 because as far as a friction folder knife, it does function fairly nicely, nice and smooth. There's no spots where it gets hung up or anything. And then on the personal side of things, material choice, I gave an 8. I do very much like 20 CV. And while G10 can be kind of a, I'll take it or leave it depending on what knife it's on, doing G10 like that, multiple layers of different colors and stuff, I definitely appreciate. Which is why for aesthetic, I gave it 7s as well. It is a little stubby, and it is a Tanto, which are not usually at the top of my preferred list, but for pocket ergos, I gave it a 7 because it is in the leather slip. It slid into my pocket very easily, and it sat very comfortably, like beside my cell phone, and just stayed there. It wasn't trying to fall over sideways or anything else like that. It just stayed in place, which I really appreciated. For ergonomic preference on the personal side, I gave it a 4 because it's a 2-finger grip, and that sucks. And they could have fixed that by putting a lanyard hole on it, or even the backspacer, if they had drilled that, so you could put a lanyard through the center of it or something, so you could get your other fingers have something to do with that knife. I probably would have liked it a little bit more. And then I gave it an enthusiasm of 6 because I like Jared Ozier's stuff, so it gets points for that. I like the overall aesthetic of it, but for being such a small thing and the price tag that you have attached to it, it's just something that I would probably pass on 9 times out of 10.
Fair enough.
So
Did we? I don't think I said the price during my little spiel.
What were they,
No.
American?
No, we have not
On
mentioned price.
Benchmade's. Yeah. Benchmade's
I'll look that up,
MSRP.
yeah.
Were you more hatery or less hatery than that, Nigel?
I think you should go next, Dennis.
For the record,
Fine. Asshole.
the Tengu Tool goes for $180 on Benchmade's website.
Okay.
No.
Yeah. I'm not going to give away which way I'm going yet. You should go next.
Okay. I have some comments about all y'all's score. I probably will have some comments on Nigel's score as well. But so I gave it a 65, which is no slouch. It's a point above Paul at the end of the day. It's C-. Yeah. You all dabbled on it. Small chunk of steel for 20 CV and the material that you have. Similar price points. We've got a 20 CV with dual layered Griptilian. Where's my camera? Jeez, this is a whole new thing going on. Aluminum barrel spacers, blah, 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 with a very similar price point, slightly cheaper than probably the pocket knife, slightly more expensive than the tool. And you're getting a lot of material for that, whereas you're not getting any of the aluminum anodizing, blah, blah, blah. So I think their price is extra butterfly-y on that one. Fit and finish, yeah, Jared Ozier is pretty nice, but with a Benchmade, it's hard to give anything onto more than an 8, just because you might be able to give it a 9 sometimes on the one that you see, if that's the one you're judging, but we all know what Benchmade's like. So, you're probably going to have an 8 on fit and finish. Cutting ability, I think I skied slightly higher than you guys, but I was also looking at this in a keychain knife form. And I think that's where my ergonomic execution differs very much from Paul, if not the rest of you guys, is I was thinking about it in a keychain knife form. This is no more than a Kershaw Cinder that's jazzed up.
there's one problem with it. You can't put it on a set of keys.
No, you cannot. I understand what you're saying. But when you're looking at the cutting ability of this knife, it's in that same category. I think the Allay is a bigger knife.
Yes. 100% it is.
It's quite a bit bigger. I think this is more of a category of like the pub's a bigger knife. This is a Cinder. This is a Swiss Army keychain knife. That's what category it's in. So I gave it an 8, right? Lockup and actuation. Friction folders. This thing is sluggish. It's not smooth in any way. Like, I'm sure it's a friction folder and you have to have some sort of friction, but I've played with other friction folders that that won't fall closed, but will still have a nice smooth action. And I found this was kind of gummy for opening and closing, right? So personal side of things, my material choice, again, bullet point form is just kind of the thing that I've been doing lately, and layer G10s with 20 CV is kind of up there for me, right? Like it's so that's the Griptilian that I pointed out. Aesthetics, I don't like this knife. I don't like the fat tanto. I don't like the pry bar on the back of it. It's pocket ergos. The pocket slip kills it for me. If they had a done keychain knife, like you were saying, Paul, with a lanyard somewhere along the way, something to do with your hand, something to put on a set of keys so the keys become part of the knife, something like that type of idea. A key bar would be fantastic on the other end of that to get some purchase or whatever, because they do make a lanyard hole for a key bar, right?
Only one brief interjection here. If they were to do that, they would need some sort of detent system for the friction folder to keep it closed. Otherwise, you're going to end up in a situation where, we'll just grab this.
It's because it has a slip.
Bumped, right?
Yeah.
So
because it has a slip, and that's what's keeping it closed. Yeah. But the other thing with that is those slips, like, you're probably going to have to work them in because they're quite snug as well. And so, yes, you've got the little pry bar-y thing to be able to grab it and pull it out. But it's not exactly like a beautiful slip either, right? So that, I think I put that into the pocket ergo category for that reason as well, right? So, ergonomic preference quite a bit lower than the objective side, because yes, I'm with Paul where it's like not a comfortable knife to hold. Even in the keychain category, there's other things that are nicer, like even the Cinder with the ergos that it has. You can get your thumb behind it and really dig in or whatever, right? And so Enthusiasm, it's right on the line of the meh type of category. Meh was something that came up in the last couple episodes as someone's answer over and over again, and I like it, and I'm going to go with it. So.
Good stuff.
Yeah, there we go. Mr. Fisk is saying in chat right now that all of Dennis is the same size as my head, and that's true for real life too. Just proportions are.
Yeah, I could get really close, but that's literally as close as I can possibly be, and this just is awkwardly close to the monitor, and so that's not happening. So I'm just gonna have to deal with ant-sized Dennis until we move the camera, and that's not happening tonight. So.
So yeah, is everyone ready for a trip into the Twilight Zone?
This is the dimension of imagination. It is an area which we call the Twilight Zone.
Is Nigel gonna give high school, low school? What are we gonna go with the school?
He likes his tiny stuff.
I went high, apparently. I overall gave it an 80.
Oh, I'm going to rag on this score so bad. Anyway, go ahead. I haven't even looked at it yet.
So yeah, had a hard time with the objective side of things. That's where this guy really tanks, because like you guys have mentioned, the price for this guy and for what all you're getting is pretty damn high. So for both the cost versus materials and fit and finish, I ended up giving it a 7. It's the one, like the couple that I have checked out, or one or two I've seen, they do seem fairly nicely fit and finished, but knowing Benchmade, there's going to be discrepancies with the grinds and stuff like that. So
I agree with you, but 7 is a bit steep just for, because like you said, the ones that we personally saw were pretty good. And I'm with you. I only gave it an 8 because of that same reason. So I can't bitch too much about it, but 7 is dipping a little
and
low.
Kind of part of why I thought of that is because it's such a small package, there's not much to fit and finish. So there's, like, if it's something bigger, it would be easier to notice little things being off, but because it's smaller, those little things should stand out more, so they should be easier to address.
Okay, I'm going to bring up this topic because you're the last score and we've all talked about it. And when it comes to the fit and finish thing, I'm super curious. Does anyone know whether the shield is inlaid over top of the black, or if it's the white underlayer with the shield that they put the black piece on top of and have it come through?
So, can I tell you that I'm like seriously torn about which method I would prefer to see in that knife?
Okay, so why I'm saying that the shield inlaying would be, for me, a trickier thing for fit and finish is because if you over machine the white, it just won't fit. And I guess you could say that about the white piece going in as well, but I think that it is easier to snug that up coming through than it is one piece that they're trying to put down into. I think also because of the machining work involved, it's probably... Whoa.
That was weird.
Oh, your camera died.
Oh, my camera
That was
died.
the battery giving out noise.
Oh.
I know that noise.
Erica?
Oh, no, it just came back.
Yeah, okay.
Okay.
Apparently, it's supposed to have a sleep mode that was turned off, but apparently it still does. So
Well,
Fair enough.
You're in a fisheye
You're all
lens.
fish-eyed.
I go
Yeah.
into sleep mode, and I just hit the button. This is my roommate, Erica. You're live.
Hi.
It's her computer that I'm getting extra fancy
Oh,
with here.
before
so-
she runs away, do you know how to fix the fisheye?
Oh, Erica. Erica,
So, yeah.
sorry.
As we're coming
No,
back to
it's
try and
just doing
fix
a fisheye
that,
thing now when I turned it back on.
yeah, I'm just going to carry on through the scores here.
Yeah.
Cutting ability,
still back
like
on
Paul was
normal-
mentioning,
normal.
it is a fairly tiny blade, but
Okay.
I have enjoyed
We're gonna have to-
using a small blade. Very nice for just like that little pinch grip in your palm utility, cutting out stencils and templates, stuff like
So yeah, we
that.
just need to turn it back to camera
So
mode.
I would find it enjoyable.
I
The main point that I agreed with Dennis and are opposite of what Paul did here was for the ergonomic execution. I think they did exactly what they were going for as far as that size of a knife. And I think they did it really well. So I gave that a 9. Lock up and actuation could be better for a friction folder, but could be worse. I do enjoy... I don't necessarily enjoy the gumminess that Dennis mentioned. It could be smoother, but I do enjoy how consistent it is.
Yeah.
That's
And then,
Sorry.
and then the personal scores is where it really shined for me. Material choice, yeah, like Dennis and everyone else, the G10 layered color combo with the 20 CV, good points for that. Aesthetics. Oh my god, that thing is so cute and adorable. I fucking love it.
Isn't it? It's a pretty cute knife.
Oh, it's so adorable. So cute. Pocket ergos, just because it does have the pry bar kind of sticking out, I do find that potentially does get in the way if you shift in the right position, but it's not obtrusive inherently. So I gave that an 8. Ergonomic preference, like I mentioned, I really do enjoy that little 2-finger utility sort of quick work blade.
And you can get a whole
Gave
2
that a
fingers
9.
on that thing.
Oh yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So I actually gave it a 9 for the ergonomic preference as well. And if it wasn't for the cost, my enthusiasm probably would have been a 10, but because of the cost, it's a 9. Because,
jeez,
bloody hell, I want that thing if it wasn't so pricey.
Fair enough. I'm glad somebody likes it.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, and it's funny too that we have such a wide spread, but if you look at our objective scores, we're not too far off from each other. I think
No.
Nigel was definitely the most kind to it. But yeah, I think we're relatively on the same page for this guy.
Relatively on the same page. Nigel
You
gave it
three
an
are.
80.
Yeah,
Objectively.
But you look at his personal score. It's
Okay, I actually just put on my microphone again to hear that last part, and I was like, "What?"
well,
We're
look
still
at
trying to figure out my video, but I've got audio still, so
right. Okay, yeah, no, his personal score is definitely just glowing compared to like Paul's score here, or let's see, your score,
what?
or my
And again,
score.
I think the big thing, and me and Nigel sided with it, is small knife on a small knife platform, and you gave it a 9 for ergos, and I gave it an 8, compared to a 5. And I don't know what Joe gave it. I can't remember.
For ergonomic execution, objectively, I gave it a 7. I think I think it achieved what it set out to do, but I didn't see it being uber comfortable for a majority of people. That's all.
So, in my defense, the reason why I gave it such a low score was because I figured if I don't like it with the smallest hands out of the group, nobody's going to like it.
But I think you were thinking
Because-
about it in a big knife platform. Like as far as just using instead of like a keychain knife, like we were talking about or whatever, right? Like it's.
I just don't like 2-finger grips on
Camera
knives.
again.
There's a reason why I put a lanyard on this one. Was
I
because
did
with
have-
2 fingers,
yeah.
this thing sucked.
I do
But for
think
size of the blade of that guy compared to the grip, I would totally agree with you. But it comes down to the proportions of blade size to grip that makes it comfy.
it's not the most uncomfortable thing. I mean, I still give. Oh, hey, Dennis. I still give it a 7.
I'm back.
But
yes.
I do think it was a severely
I'm
missed.
sideways, but
I think it's a severely missed opportunity, having not put in
I can work
a
with
lanyard
it.
hole
Yep,
of some sort.
I can work with it. Yeah.
If I
Yep.
realized you guys had liked it as much as you guys did, I would have given it a higher score there.
Mostly because
Because it's objective.
yeah,
Because my score specifically shouldn't overshadow. But I just made the assumption, because usually if it fits me, it's
Thank you.
something that's usually fairly comfortable universally.
yeah. And I mean, talk about your neutral grip. It's not something that's going to be like super divisive or uncomfortable, in particular.
Mhm.
I think the reason it got kind of a lower score across the board is just because of how much they're asking for such a little knife. That's kind of the problem. And now, that being said, I did look up Jared Osher's work for the first time today. This design, I forget what he calls it, but it might actually just be called the Tengu Tool. But this thing,
The
his-
Tengu is the Tanto, but he's got 3 variations. Actually, if you
He's-
type up the Hawk,
yeah,
and
he's got a Warncliffe version, which is actually kind of nice.
Oh, what's the third one called? I forget. It's a Tengu, a Hawk, and something else. And he's
Oh.
got 3 blade shapes, and this is the worst one.
Actually, yeah, that's pretty much what Paul and I were
Agreed.
talking about. Like, it's like, wow, yeah, like
Agreed.
of all the shapes you could have made into your Benchmade collab. Yeah, see, this is weird.
Okay, but the reason they did it is because it matches the flipper knife.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, fair enough.
And so they're coming out with them as a pairing, right?
Right. And to be fair, all the materials that he shows here, like beautiful fit and finish, it looks super cool, and they start at like 700 American. That's his standard starting position, and he sells them
And
well.
you can't get one anyways.
He's sold out.
I like all of those.
Yeah, they're pretty knives. They're very
They're
pretty.
so cute.
They're very
Yeah.
cute. But it's one of those things where, like, if you want a Jared Osher design, you're going to expect to pay at least 700 for this particular model, and it goes up from there. So a Benchmade coming in at 200 and whatever Canadian and 180 American, I mean, by comparison, that's a really good deal for a Jared Osher design. That's, official and through Benchmade and all that. So on the one hand, yes, I can understand the price point. I know why they said it that way, because the Jared Osher fans are going to want the Benchmade, generally speaking,
Yeah.
right?
This
But
is your chance to own.
exactly. The flip side of that is it's almost 200. Like after tax, American, it's like $200. That's a lot of money to put into such a small knife. So I don't think Benchmade's really shooting themselves in the foot. I just think that it's a different application,
I've come up with a couple different knives from Benchmade that just don't make sense, and this is another one. This is, I believe, even cheaper than the Tengu Tool.
Yeah.
With an M390 blade that they're getting from Austria, Sweden, or whatever, because it's not an American M390. And
So Mr. Fisk is making a point here in chat that might be relevant. He's saying that the Tengu Tool is a party knife used for cutting open blunts and popping beers. And the blade's small enough that you won't catch a weapons charge if you get pulled over by the cops with weed and everything else on you, which is probably true.
as
I don't know if
facetious
that's why the knife.
No,
as facetious
I
as
find
the
it
comment
funny
is.
I find it funny that probably one of the least partiest out of the group, and I like it the most.
that is kind of funny. Yes,
Yeah.
that is. Okay, but the other thing to go along with that as well is anyone who's going to buy this knife, this isn't going to be the only knife you have on you. So sure, it's a party knife if this is the only knife you have on you, but the same people that are buying this are Joe or Fisk that came in with 9 knives on his person
Well, and here's
or around his. There's a pile over. No, I'm just kidding.
Both Paul and I lately have been carrying traditionals in our back pocket, and you know what? If I could get this for the right price, maybe I'd be inclined to pick it up and slap it in there because I kind of like that. Like it's
Slap it in there, buddy.
exactly.
Slap it into your back pocket, all right.
I said that for you, but
All for you.
and it's all for you. And I mean, it's not like I dislike friction folders. It's just it's easy to write it off as a Benchmade tax thing. And if you look at the comparative stuff you can get for your money, this definitely ain't it. But if you like the design, I mean, we say that a lot, but if you really like the design, it kind of justifies the price. Like Nigel's super gung ho about this thing, but
well, and I will say in the comments, they were calling out right at the beginning of the reviews, average 5 to 7 enthusiasm the whole time, and I threw down a 5 on the bottom end of things. But I mean, yeah, that is something that, yes, if you like this knife, sure, but it's on the personal side of things, not on the objective side of things.
yeah.
And it's not if you
most
like
knives
this
pass.
knife, it's if you like this knife, right? Like it's
Yeah.
so
But
And
shouldn't most knives pass this test?
Well, if
Ultimately-
if they're going to turn up in a review situation for us, I'd like to think that there's enough interest that I think it warrants a review. So there's got to be some base level enthusiasm for most of us. I can't think of a knife that we've reviewed where it's been less than a 5 enthusiasm, where all of us were like, "Wow, this is crap. I don't know why anyone would ever buy this." Like,
yeah, I don't think all of us, but there's definitely been some low scores. I don't want to call any company out in particular, but there's definitely a couple companies that might come to mind as far as being tanks goes, right? And it was just a swing and a miss on their part or whatever, right?
yeah.
So
I just can't recall offhand who they might be. That's all.
oh, I know. I just don't want to throw shade. You can go back and watch videos and see the scoring.
Oh,
Oh,
Dennis is gone again.
Well, that seems like it's a perfect opportunity to call the break here, because
Indeed.
it's getting to be about that time.
Sure is.
And we will let Dennis figure out his camera sub here, and hopefully we will. Well, I'm calling for the break, so it doesn't matter if you're back or not. We're about to go.
Eric is all right. Let's just say we'll figure some stuff out before we get back to the second part.
Yep. So we shall be back shortly with everyone here. See you soon.